For 7 days, the killing never stopped. The gleaming jewel of the Mediterranean, a city that had stood for 7 centuries as a titan of trade and maritime power, was being wiped off the face of the earth. Its streets, once bustling with merchants from across the known world, now ran with blood. Its magnificent temples and towering homes became tombs of fire and ash. This wasn't just a battle, it was an extermination. In the spring of 146 BC, the Roman Republic wasn't just defeating its greatest rival, it was fulfilling a blood oath. This is the story of that brutal end, the dramatic, horrifying, and absolute fall of Carthage. To understand how it came to this, how a superpower could be so utterly annihilated, we have to rewind. We have to go back to the simmering embers of a rivalry that had already scorched the world for over 100 years. The shadow of defeat and the seeds of vengeance. Our story really begins not in 149 BC with the final war, but 55 years earlier, at the end of the Second Punic War. In 201 BC, after the genius of Hannibal Barca had brought Rome to its knees, Carthage was finally and decisively defeated. The peace treaty that followed wasn't a negotiation, it was a humiliation designed to permanently cripple the Punic Empire. Carthage was stripped of its overseas territories, its powerful fleet was dismantled, and a crushing indemnity of 10,000 talents was imposed, payable over 50 long years. And crucially, Carthage was forbidden from waging any war, even in self-defense, without the express permission of the Roman Senate. Rome's goal was clear: Carthage was to be a broken, subordinate state, forever living in Rome's shadow. But then, something unexpected happened. Freed from the immense expense of maintaining a vast military, Carthage went back to what it had always done best: trade. Its strategic position on the North African coast was a gateway to the Mediterranean, and its merchants thrived. The city's economy didn't just recover, it boomed. Within a few short decades, Carthage was so prosperous that it offered to pay off the entire remaining war debt in a single lump sum. Rome refused. They preferred to keep their old rival on a leash. This comeback didn't go unnoticed in Rome. It stirred old fears and deep-seated resentment. And nowhere was this sentiment stronger than in the heart of one man, Marcus Porcius Cato, known to us as Cato the Elder. A veteran of the Second Punic War, Cato had seen firsthand the terror Hannibal had unleashed on Italy. In 152 BC, he was part of a delegation sent to Carthage and was shocked by the city's renewed wealth. He didn't see a defeated subject. He saw a resurgent threat, a coiled viper ready to strike again. From that moment on, Cato became obsessed. He ended every single speech he gave in the Senate, no matter the topic, with the same chilling phrase: Ceterum censeo Carthaginem esse delendum. Furthermore, I believe that Carthage must be destroyed. It was a relentless drumbeat for war, a call for final vengeance that echoed through the halls of Roman power. Rome's ally, the ambitious Numidian king Massinissa, gave them the perfect excuse. Protected by the treaty, Massinissa repeatedly raided and seized Carthaginian territory, knowing his victims couldn't legally fight back without Rome's permission. For decades, Carthage sent desperate appeals to Rome, but each time the Senate sided with its ally, carving off more Carthaginian land for the Numidians. Finally, in 151 BC, having paid off its debt and been pushed to the breaking point, Carthage decided it had had enough. It raised an army and confronted Massinissa's forces. Though the Carthaginian army was defeated, the simple act of raising it was all the pretext Rome needed. By defying the treaty, Carthage had just signed its own death warrant. The hawks in Rome, led by Cato, now had their reason for war. The Third Punic War was about to begin. The unjust war begins. In 149 BC, Rome's intentions, cloaked for years in diplomacy, were laid bare. A massive Roman army, around 80,000 strong, landed near Utica, a longtime Carthaginian ally that had treacherously defected, giving the Romans a perfect base of operations. Panicked, the Carthaginian government made one last, desperate attempt to appease them, sending envoys to offer unconditional surrender. The Roman consuls, Manius Manilius and Lucius Marcius Censorinus, received the embassy with cold formality and a series of demands. First, they demanded 300 children from Carthage's noblest families as hostages. Heartbroken, the city complied. Then, the consuls played their next card. They declared that since Carthage was now under Roman protection, it no longer needed weapons. All of them had to be surrendered. Reluctantly, the Carthaginians agreed. A great, sorrowful convoy brought an arsenal built over generations to the Roman camp. 200,000 sets of armor and 2,000 catapults were handed over. The city was now defenseless. It was in this moment of total vulnerability that the Romans revealed their final, unthinkable demand. The Senate had decreed that the city of Carthage itself must be destroyed. Its people were to abandon their homes, their history, and their gods, and resettle at least 10 miles inland, away from the sea that was their very lifeblood. The Carthaginian envoys were stunned into silence, then erupted in grief and rage. This wasn't a treaty, it was a sentence of cultural annihilation. When the news reached Carthage, despair turned into pure, unified fury. The people turned on the Italian merchants in the city and on the politicians who had pushed for peace. The gates were barred shut. A formal declaration of war was issued against Rome. What happened next was one of history's most astonishing feats of sheer will. A city stripped of its weapons resolved to rearm itself from scratch. The entire city became a frantic, 24/7 arsenal. Temples were turned into workshops. Women cut off their long hair to be twisted into ropes for catapults. Every single day, the citizens, men and women, slave and free, forged 100 shields, 300 swords, and hundreds of projectiles. The city that Rome thought it had disarmed was getting ready for a fight to the death. The first Roman assault was a complete disaster. Confident they were attacking an unarmed city, the consuls were repulsed with heavy losses. The siege dragged on. Through 149 and 148 BC, the mighty Roman war machine stalled before the walls of a city it had already declared dead. The war was a stalemate, and Rome was getting impatient. It was time for a new commander. The arrival of Scipio Aemilianus. In early 147 BC, the Roman people, fed up with the lack of progress, elected a new consul, bending age restrictions and legal traditions to do it. Their choice was Publius Cornelius Scipio Aemilianus. He was the adopted grandson of the legendary Scipio Africanus, the man who defeated Hannibal. Scipio Aemilianus was disciplined, brilliant, and utterly ruthless. When he arrived, Scipio immediately transformed the Roman camp. First thing he did? He cleaned house. The siege had become a comfortable business for looters and merchants, and Scipio put an end to that fast. He restored iron discipline, punishing insubordination and rewarding merit. The demoralized Roman army was reborn. Scipio's strategy wasn't about reckless assaults. He knew Carthage was a fortress, and he treated it like one. His first move was to complete the blockade and starve the city out. Blockade runners were still sneaking supplies into the main harbor. So, Scipio ordered an incredible feat of engineering, the construction of a massive stone mole across the harbor's mouth to seal it completely. Day and night the legions worked, sinking stones into the sea and building a barrier that slowly choked Carthage's last lifeline. As the mole neared completion, the Carthaginians made one last, desperate naval gamble. They had secretly built 50 new ships inside their military harbor, and they cut a new channel to the sea, taking the Romans by surprise. But after an initial, indecisive clash, they botched their return to the harbor, losing many of their brand new ships. The chance was lost. Scipio's blockade was now absolute. With the harbor sealed, Scipio